Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Power Apps Learning. In today's class, we will learn about Power Apps components. What are components in Power Apps? In Power Apps, component are reusable elements which we could use by creating once. What exactly that means? I'll create a component once in the app and I can use that component across my app in various screens. And component accept the input and also returns the output. So let us create some of the components and we will also see the real time where do we use these components. Also, what are the most commonly used components? The most commonly used components are header, footer, menu, confirmation, spinner. These are the most commonly used components. Okay, let's go ahead and create a component and plug that component in our app and see how that will look like. Okay. Components can be created in two ways. One is a component can be created directly in the app, or a component can be created at the component library. When you see the best practice is you create a component at the component library and plug that component in your app. What exactly the difference? When you create a component at the app, it is restricted to the app. When you create a component at the component library level, it is at the organization or environment level. Means when I create a component can be leveraged by anybody in my organization who are leveraging that environment. Okay. Example, I have created a component which shows the spinner when I am clicking the buttons. That is something everybody in my organization needed. So, me as a center of excellence team from Power Platform, I will define a spinner component and we will circulate that message to all the audience or all the users stating that this is a spinner component defined at the organization level. Go ahead and use the spinner. Do not create the spinner at your app level. Also, creating a component at the app level is diluted or deprecated. It was there. Now, slowly, Microsoft is deprecating or removing an option of creating component at the app level. Let's see what is at the app level and then we will go ahead and create a component at the library level. Now, when I go to, let me go ahead and create a new app, Power App components. Now, let me increase is it visible to everybody in the back row? So when you come here, this is where you will create a component. When you come here and click on the components tab as part of the Triview, Triview has two tabs. One is screens and the other one is components. So when you go to components, you can create a new component. Again, I'm telling you, this is a app level component, not a best practice. But when you want to create a component can be used across the organization, the best practice is create the component at the component library level. Where could I see? When you come to make.powerapps.com, under apps, there is something called component library. Click on component library and create new component library. I'm saying like GVP 2023 batch components. The beauty with this component library is it is no different than you creating a new app. Everything looks absolutely similar. If you notice, there is no different when you see the UI or the backer portal of a component library. Do you see that this is a app and this is a component library? Do you see any difference? Barely, right? But only one difference is it directly lands onto components tab. It directly landed onto components tab, right? Other than that, you will not see any difference. So few properties to a component is width of the component should always be app.width and height of the component is depends on the component. So what are components? Components are reusable elements in the app. The best examples for components are header, footer, spinner, confirmation window, right? So what is the height of a header we always define? 70 pixel is the height of the header we always define, right? And what is the width we define? The width of the header we define always as app.width. Similarly, here also what we are defining is width as app.width. Doesn't matter what is the type of the app where the user is rendering that app. If the user is rendering the app at mobile, tablet, or desktop. If they are rendering the app at the desktop level, the resolution or the width of the screen is 1, and the app is rendering at the mobile, the width will be different, which would weigh somewhere around 800 pixel, and the computer or the laptop standard width is 1250 or 1366. Last but not least, a tablet would be between the 700 and 1366. Okay, so but my height of my header is always 70 pixel. Okay, now remember always when we are creating any component or any control for that matter in Power App, always recommended to use a 70 plus 0 will become a formula. 70 plus 0 will always remain as 70, but 70 plus 0 will become as formula. What is the advantage by doing this? Example, I am creating an app. In that, I created a screen. In that screen, I have added a control and defined the X and Y position and height and various other properties where I have given a static number. Now, I wanted to copy that control from screen 1 to screen 2 or screen 3. When you do that, the quadrants will change. But when you define the X, Y width height quadrant values with a expression or a formula approach 70 plus 0. If you define like this, doesn't matter where you copy, those quadrants will carry forward. Let's see what I mean exactly. Now, look at the x and y position, width and height. Okay, I'm not touching anything. This is control 1, and I'm defining the. This is very useful, especially when you are creating control on one screen and realize that's the same control I wanted on the other screen. Now, for the second control, I am defining everything as an expression or everything as a formula. Okay. Now, I'm creating another blank screen on the app and coming here, copy them and paste it here. 1167, 1167, 87, 1167, 87. Okay, basically looks like it has only one control. Let me add another control here. Now one more label here. This label has the behavior as this. Now I'm copying and pasting the same gallery beneath, but in this I'm adding this one with the expressions. Now, if I copy these two galleries onto the next screen, let's see how it will behave. Now here, the gallery 2 has this one 1650 and title is 297 and 50, and coming here onto this 297 50 50 295 60. Surprisingly, it is coming with the same values. Surprisingly, it is coming with the same values, but most of the times what happens is the positions will change. Most of the times positions will change. So always it is recommended to add the positions as an expression. So it will not change the field values when you move between the screens. Okay, 31150, and what is this here? Okay, so what I create, I have defined like that. Now, what is the value? Now, once you create the component, it is a shell. What is the naming convention for component is CMP header. So now it is component header. I repeat, the component naming convention is CMP. Okay. And now I need to start adding the controls of the component. It is only a platform. Now I am going to add a label here, and the X position of this is parent dot X, and Y position is parent dot Y, and width is parent dot width, and height is parent dot height. I am defining my label, position, width, height, and everything with respect to the parent. What is the parent of this control? A component. If the component is at a particular location on my app, it will end up using the same X and Y positions, and also if the component having a specific width, the same width will be applied to my control also. Now I will go ahead and change LBL header value. Now I'll just remove this and I'll say welcome to our apps. This one I'll just put it in the center. Let's 23 pixel. Okay. Now this can be styled like the way you want it for now. So now I have created my component. Go ahead and publish the component. Now, once the component is created, we will start leveraging that component in our apps. So how we could do that is, once the component is published at the component library, we can refer this component in our apps as an additional objects as part of insert objects. Under insert objects, there is something called the get more components. When you click on get more components, it will show you all the components available as part of your library. Again, once this is published, this is published. Now come here, get more components. You guys see at the back row, get more components, and notice here I see GVP 2023 batch components. Click there and select that and say insert. The time I click on insert, it will add another option as part of my insert components area, which is called library components. That is component header. Just select that. It automatically get add to your app. Now when you go to components, you will not see anything here, but you will see as part of your as part of your screen, because I am using a component from my component library. Also, you will see the component as part of your screen. Look at the beauty. I see the component as part of my screen, but that component will never be part of your app because I'm referring a global component. It is as good as in your object-oriented language, a global class. In your C or C++ language, you include the classes, right? Soon you add the control on your screen. The next step you need to do is you need to give a proper naming convention for your component. When you add the component, it comes with the component header because that's the name of the component, _1, _2, _3, blah, blah, blah. But we are not going to leave it like that. We'll give a proper naming convention saying like component header landing page. That is the component I'm using as part of my landing page. This is good. I've created. But what is the challenge here? If I need to change the header value from welcome to Power Apps to anything else, because when I am moving between the screens in my app, I do not want to say the same heading for every screen. From screen to screen, my heading value will change. And in fact, if I want to change the background color of my component, I should be able to change background color and a text color of the component. If I want to change, I should be able to change, isn't it? I may be a very good with when I with the header background as thick blue and the text color as white, but Gangadhar might not be okay. Gangadhar want to give a different color and different font, different text color. Those are called input properties for the component. So I have to create a different element for the component, which is called input property set. So when you create input property, I will get the flexibility to input or send a value to my component to render like the way I want. So how we could do that is when you go to component, under component, there is something called component property. Here, I can start adding properties to my components. Click on new custom property and it has two elements or two properties of that property. Is one is a display name and the other one is the name. Name is always internal to that property. What does that mean exactly? When I am defining or when I am referring the component, when I want to refer this property, this is the one you see in your code. When you look at the property of the component, you see this. We will see what exactly means header value. Notice the way how the name is coming. Though I have a space in my display name, the name has truncated that space because this is the one we will get when we want to refer the property of this component in a Power App code. Now we will just say this is the header value for my component. There are two type of properties. The property type is two. One is input and output. Input, I can send my value to component. Output, component will return a value back to my called area of the app. We know that, right? Called portion and calling portion, isn't it? In programming language, there is something called calling area and called area, isn't it? Do we have or not? When I am calling a function from a program P1 with the function name as addition of two numbers, that is called calling portion. And where I have a full definition of the function is called called portion, isn't it? I'm calling that function from this program. Similarly, this input property will be fed from the calling portion. Output will be defined at the component and will be returned back to the app wherever this component is referred. Now I'm creating this property as an input property, and the data type of the property is text, number, various we have. Okay. For now, I'm creating it as a number. We will also understand what is the screen because we are going to create a component for the flyout menu, because most of you are going to create this flyout menu, isn't it? Now the screen is referred there. Now text is the one I'm going to rise on reset when value changes. Just select that, because when I am going between the screens, if the value is changed, it has to reset this property. Create. So my input property got created. Notice this header value with space, with space. Now come back to the label and text of the label. Here I wanted to refer that property, input property, component dot header dot. Notice that header value. This is where I'm talking about the input property referral value. Now, if you see display value and display name and the name, whatever the name you defined here will be referred as part of your code. Technically speaking, it has to be as var header value. That makes more sense. Now, come here, come back here, that dot var header value. Notice that header value is coming as text by default, because when you create a property, the property value will come the default value as text. If it is a text property, if it is a number, it will come with 100. Okay. So now here I can define whatever I want. Welcome to Power Apps. Okay. Now I am publishing this. The time you publish, it will publish at the component library only. It will not be updated at the app level. Now, once it is published, you need to come here and reload the component if you are at the component level, or you can always go to this component library and say this, remove the component from this component library, because I have added the component with the older version. But if you do not want to remove this, you can always close the app and reload the app. We will see that also in a minute. So component library, import the component. Now I imported the component. Go to this screen. Now I have got another property here, header value. I can change this one as demo on components. Look at here. I can change my component header value from the screen where I am adding. Now come back to here and add in this screen also. I added in this screen. In this screen, I'm going to say the header value as screen to value. This way, I can control what I want to show as a value here. Notice what are all the properties you see here. Only the header property, right? Now I'll just save this app and come back to this component. And now I'm going to define another property called background color. var busy color. But this time it is also input property, but the definition of my property, data type of my property is a color palette, right? So I clicked on the color palette, again raise that. Now my default color will come as the black color. If I want any other color other than black, I can define here, which will become red. RGB format, we know, right? It is RGB, red, green, blue. A combination of these three colors is the value which defines any color in this universe. Okay. And what is this? One is the aperture value. What is this aperture value? Is the thickness, how thick you want. When I say zero point 0.5, the color will mild a little. Now when I just, we could see on the red, see this is coming a little light color, pale color. When I say 1, it is thick red. When I just say zero point 0.1, 10% only. 10% is the intensity of my color. Do you notice that? Zero point 0.1 is 10%. And when I just say 1, the same thing is coming thick red. Are you able to follow me? So now that we created or defined the property, once I define the background color, I can assign that background color to my component. Where I could assign that is a fill color. Now go to fill color. Now CMP header dot var busy color. Whatever the background color I have, it will be assigned to my component. But why I don't see that color here is a label background is overriding. Now let me dilute my label color. There it is. I made my label color to blue. So now the time I say my label color as transparent, automatically it will come. Now let's go to the color value and play with it for a minute. See that? 255, 255, 255 is white. Okay. Now, this is how I can set my background at the component level. Let's go ahead and publish this app and publish this component and reload the app and see how this component will behave in the app, and is there any other option we get at the app level. Now I'm just let me go ahead and create another property is font. Looks like the font is not there now. Let me create another property called screen. Where screen name and the property is screen, and why is that? Reset the value. This is the screen name. When I click on that, what it is giving? App.active screen. Look at that. When I see the property value at the component level is app.active screen. Whatever the active screen for that minute is what it takes. Okay. I can provide my screen name also. Always I can provide my screen name. Okay. Now I'm publishing this. Publish this app. End of the day is also an app. Now, when you come here and just publish this one also, and we will reload this app and see how it will behave. Remember, in Power Apps, if you publish an app or a component at the component library, what happens is it will take a minute or two to flow down to the places where and all it is using. Now let me reload this app. Remember, we have added that component from the component library. So it has to tell me, hey buddy, there is a change of this component, whatever you are using in your app by the component library owner. Let's see, will it say that or not? Notice that component library update available. And when I click on this component on my screen, I see only one value here. Now I'll say review. Oh, there is one update available. If I have multiple published components, I have not opened my app for 3 months. In that 3 months, there are multiple publishers available on that component. It will show you each and everything, and it will let you select which version of that component library you want to import on your app. Okay, now I'll say upgrade. The time I say upgrade, it will update the component behavior. See that it started showing me three properties for the same component. Earlier it is only one property, now it is three properties, right? Now when I click on this, I can select my color palette then and there. For this screen, I have selected blue, and this screen I wanted to select something different color. Okay, and this component is a different height. Any questions? Now, in this component library, for this component, we have another property called screen name. So now here, I can define my screen name where I wanted to go. Screen 1. Remember, it is a screen name. So I have to provide the value as a screen name only. I cannot provide a string value. If I provide a string value, see what happens. It says that I cannot understand, the formula has error. Receiving a formula and running it again. Okay. So it has to be a screen name. Clear? So where do we use that? Where do we use that is if I want to redirect the user by clicking on a button or by clicking on the component, that is when we will use this property. What is that is, come back to here. Apart from this, I'm going to add a button on my component. Button of the component is 40 pixel and height is say like 25 pixel. I'm just adding here, say like 150 pixel probably. Look at the behavior of this is X position is parent dot width minus self dot width. We know these properties, how we could write, right? We know this and we are using this. Self dot width minus 20 pixel. So it will come there. Say select. And the Y position is that, and what is stopping you as the on select of this button. What I want is I want to navigate the user to the screen what has been defined to that property. Okay, now navigate to where component header dot var screen name. That is the way we redirect the user even at the app level also, isn't it? But here, what are we doing? We are defining the property as a single screen element, and from the button I wanted to show you that I can navigate the user by clicking one element on the component to different locations of the app. Now this is button screen navigation. Now here Now I'll publish this app. Now I need to reload this app. Then only I will get the prompt as a new version of this app. This component library is available. Do you want to review and import onto your app? Usually what happens is when the component library is available with the latest changes, it will show like this. And if you are not very sure, you can always go to the component library and you can verify if you have the required permissions on the component library. Now update this, come back with the button as well. Now if you notice, I have a button here, right? Now on this screen, I want to define this value as screen 2. On this screen, I already defined my screen value as screen 1. Okay. Now what I have to do, let me play the app, and when I click on select here, it's going to screen 2. Click on select here, it is coming back to screen 1. Notice that I have not selected anything here. I am selecting this. Where it is most useful is when you add a icon here as home, and the home icon, whenever user click on home icon, I want to take the user back to the home screen, isn't it? So that time I do not have to define every time. Whenever I click on this icon, I know I need to take the user back to the home screen. So this is the most commonly place where people use, or every developer use this screen property. Now on select of this, we'll say navigate component header dot var screen name, and again for this also I can set my property color property as another input property, because this color coming by default as white color, but when I give the background as a light yellow color or light pink color, light any light color, white would not be prominent to see. So again create one more property at this component library as icon color, and you can set that color. We noticed that already, right? A background color. Similarly here also I can say component header dot var background color. The same color will get applied here also, right? Now if I want another color, I can always create as icon color. This one will become var icn color, and this is the property to set icon colors input, and I'll select it as a color palette. Again this one also this. Now for this icon color, I can always define whatever the color I want. Now come back to icon, and here I'll say var icon color. Right? Now once this is done, publish one more time and come back to here. When you reload the app, it will come. Now if you see, I have got the header icon also, sorry, home icon also in this. Now I can define what screen I wanted to go when I click on the home screen, home icon screen, right? So now I'll say screen 2 here, and To this icon, I can define a color, whatever the color I want. Say this is one color, and again here I can define another color here for this icon. Now here icon color, I can select the palette and I can just choose probably a thick color. There it is. Now when I play this app, click on here. What is the screen name here? Okay, that's there it is. Screen 1. Now if I play the app, click on here, screen 1. Click on here, screen 2. Similarly, I can set any number of screens, and when I click on here, screen 3, and I add the component from the library components, and here I will say the screen navigate it onto screen 1. Now if I come here, I'm coming back to screen 1. Again, this home icon is where I'm defining my home screen, right? Any questions on that? Any questions? Now let's go ahead and create the spinner component. The beauty with component library is I can create multiple components and use those components as part of my app. If I am interested in only one component, I can select only that component. I can only use that component alone. If I'm interested in more than one component in that component library, I can leverage all the components. Clear? Now, new component. I'll say component spinner. Width is app.width. Height is app.height. Because I want to show the spinner when I'm doing the data operation, when I submit, when I'm retrieving the data on the screen. It takes couple of seconds, right? We see a small dotted line running on top of the screen. Have you ever noticed that? When we submit, it takes a minute or so, a minute or two, sorry, a second or 2 seconds to reload the data when we are submitting the data. So this usually you will see when the data set is large. Let me present to you an app which has a large data set, which is more than 2000, sorry, 2 lakhs records. This SharePoint list has more than 2 lakhs records, and if I want to perform any operations against that SharePoint list, it will take decent time. So when an app is taking time to perform the operations while fetching the records, updating the record, or reloading the gallery, it will run the small dotted line on top of top row of the screen. So if you do not want that to happen, and if you do not want that screen to be hung for a couple of seconds and user doesn't know anything what is happening, so it is always recommended to give a spinner with an interactive message stating that what is happening, updating the records, adding the record, or deleting the record, anything. So now let me clean this controls on the screen and add the data source SharePoint. SharePoint, SharePoint, and this practice 200 records. Now I am adding that data set here. After that, just add a gallery, associate that, and an associating title and subtitle here. Notice what happens when I start scrolling to the end. It is adding another set of data. But if I just perform any filters on this gallery, it will take time because the amount of the data we are loading on the screen is huge. And when we submit the data onto the screen, usually it will take 1 or 2 seconds to load the screen repeatedly. So that is when we will show the spinner. Now here, coming back to here, so when it is showing the spinner, what we need to do, we need to hold the user not to select any other control on the screen. Okay, so that is the reason we are taking the component height and width as per the screen. Now here we will have to define a background color, and the aperture of that is say like 20%. So it is showing that color, as well as it is letting the user to read the controls behind the screen. What happens if this aperture value is not that? Now let me go ahead and create another property called spinner bz value, background value. Spinner background aperture. Now here we'll say where SPR spinner BG background aperture value, a value, and this is input and this is number, and that numerical value I wanted to set to this background aperture value. Now how I can do that is fill here. I'll say component spinner dot var aperture value. It is 100. As I said already, as I said before, when you are defining the property as number, what happens? Default value come as 100. Now I'll say 2.2%, 0.20. Now notice that the value or the intensity of the background color is changing. Now if I just want to change the color, fill color of this, I can always tweak this value, say 255, say 25. See this background color. And again, this background color also you can define it as a color palette values, right? So RGB value, you can define three input parameters RGB, and you can play with the background color. Are you guys able to follow me? Or if you do not want like this, and if you want to have as a single value, you can always say as spinner BG background color. Here you can always say where SPR BG color, and this one you can take it as a color palette, and the same property you can set directly here, component spinner dot where BG color. Did we give both as the same? No, BG color is the property. Now here I can just define whatever the color I want. intensity as 0.1. So it will just mellow down. So once you define the color, what I need to do is I need to add a image, which is a PN, GIF which shows the spinner, right? So how could you get that spinner is spinner.io. Go to spinner.io. Where is that? Go to loading.io website. Here it will show you some of the spinners by default. And if you want to change the colors, you can always change the colors by just go here and you can select whatever the color combination you want. Now you see this color combination got changed, and when you select this, it will change that color. Okay, and just download that as a GIF. I think I have that. Click on GIF. It automatically tell you free download. It is absolutely free. Now it immediately build that GIF control with the spinner, whatever the color you have selected. Just download that, and it will download that GIF file. Now that GIF file you you can include on your app. Now how do you include that on your app is in the component library, go to media icon, upload, select that recently added spinner, downloaded spinner. There it is. The spinner is added and now it is loaded. Now notice that it has some background color. Now you can go back to here and background color you can make it as transparent. Earlier it has some background, so what it is coming with this background color. If you see that it is distracting you, obviously most of the times it distracts. So set it as a background as a transparent and download that one more time. Sorry, GIF download. Now this time it will come with transparent. Notice that the background color is transparent. Now download and come back to your app and upload one more control, which is spinner transparent. Now, if you notice this control and this control, the difference between these two controls, notice that this is coming with a background and this is coming without any background. And I don't want this on my screen, and this I want. And X position of this is parent dot width minus self dot width, which automatically takes to center of the X. But I do not want the entire width to be subtracted. Minus self dot width by 2. So this will take the control exactly at the center of the screen. Are you able to follow? Parent dot width minus self dot width minus self dot width. When you do not have this, it is taking the initial position of this control. But when I say half by 2, this is coming exactly to the center. Similarly, the height. But height comes here. This is parent dot height, self dot height, again self dot height by 2. So that will take the control to the middle of the screen. Where is that control? spinner. Then we go. So when I say parent dot height divided by 2 is middle of the screen, right? Center of the screen, minus self dot height divided by 2, it comes to self dot height is subtracting there, so it is coming right here. So it is also not to the center of the screen, I would say. What is the parent height? X and Y positions, I can define this as X position of the spinner as component spinner dot var spinner X position, and this one is component spinner dot spinner Y position, this by 2, and this. For now, let's have it like this. Now, once this is done, now I wanted to show as image spinner. Now I want to show a interactive message to the user as what the operation is rendering there. So this one, I'll say this, followed by the Y position of this is spinner Y position plus spinner's height. Right beneath of the spinner, I wanted to show that message stating that whatever the message, user operation is performing. If you want it as a dynamic message, we know that we can create another component input property and we can send that value, isn't it? Are you guys able to follow or no? Just publish the component library and coming I came back to my this thing, what you call the app where I'm leveraging this component. Review, update my component. Now once I upgrade the component, go back to the insert again, library components, and get more components. Under GVP, I could see another component as here as component spinner. Import that spinner also, spinner component as well. Now I'll see the component spinner here. Here you can define the background color and background color intensity like the way you want it. Now you can always say 20%. So there it is. Now you can define the spinner X and Y position. Say like 210 or 500 pixel. App dot width minus divided by 2. Stay that's where it is coming. It is as probably 250 or 300 pixel. There it is. Okay. And Y position is very much okay. And this label is not defined with a position. This label is not having any what you call properties for X and Y positions. You can always define X and Y positions for the property where you want this label to be, because the X and Y position for this label, Y position we defined right after the right after the spinner, but X position I have not given a dynamic position. You can always create label X position as one of the property and you can send it from the screen, right? Any confusion? The second topic I wanted to explain today is setting or holding the user credentials and take the user to appropriate screens. Focus more. This is something every one of you need. I repeat, when user enter the login credentials, click on submit. User had to redirect as per their login type. If user is an admin, it has to go to one screen. If user is a technical lead, it has to go to another screen. If user is an employee, it has to go to another screen. This is what we discussed, right? Most of you need to implement this functionality. Yes or no? Now let me go ahead and create another screen admin. I'll just say this is for admins. Another screen SCR tech lead. This is for tech lead. Another screen SCR employee. This is for employee. I'm adding my database table for validating my user credentials. User credentials is my table. Oh my goodness, there's one more table as such. Wrong table. User credentials. Yeah, this is the table we want. Okay, I have user credentials here. Now, on my login screen, considering this as my login screen, let me create login screen quick. Okay, this is my login screen. This is how you will also create your login screen, right? Now, monitor. Once I validate my user credentials, depends on the user type, I need to route the user to appropriate screen. Correct? Yes or no? Now, on the submit, what I'm going to do first thing is update context where selected user lookup user credentials user ID equal to txt import one underscore one dot text what is this? Sorry, formula I have written wrong. Basically, this is user ID and password, right? So when I just play this, now when I select that, that is the user ID, which means that I have selected the user one. Now my user type is what? Dot user type dot. So my user type is, what is my user type? So my user type is admin. See that 001 user type is admin. That is the value we have for 001. Now this value will drive across my app. Once user login, that's the value drives across my app. So at the submit, along with that, I will create one more global variable as gvar selected user type, selected user uh, designation, comma, this dot alvar selected user dot user type. Now I will have this value as admin, technical lead, or the employee, right? Whatever the user credentials I provide depends on that. I will have this. Are you able to follow me? Now, once this is done, if it is user type is admin, switch of this global variable. Now, what I wanted to do, if the user is an admin, I wanted to navigate the user, right? Navigate the user to one set of screens. If the user is a technical lead, I want to navigate the user to another screen. Now the logged in user is admin. I wanted to navigate the user. If the user is admin, I wanted to navigate to admin screens. If the logged in user is technical lead, I want to navigate user to a technical lead screen. If the user is employee, I want to navigate to employee screen. Now I'll say admin switch. We know, right? Switch syntax. We know the switch syntax or not? Okay. Navigate to SCR admin, and I'll just close this formula. Now syntax for switch is whatever the value I wanted to compare with, and if the value is this, do this. If the value is employee, do this SCR employee, or yes, SCR employee is the screen. Now when I come back to here, employee is the value I have here. I'll just use the same copy paste, and here tech lead is the value we have. Now here one more value is tech lead, and I want to navigate user to SCR tech lead. Are you getting me or not? Now switch is validating what is my user, and appropriately I'm taking user to the required screen. Now if I just validate this and click on submit, okay, here it is expecting option set value, which is my bad. What is the choice value? We have to say chs user type dot admin. Sorry, it is a choice value, so we have to define like this: employee, and this is tech lead. Now if I go here, say this is admin. A comparison I forgot, and I just added compared with the text value. So since this is coming as a choice, right? The user type is a choice field, and the choice field is associated with a choice set, and the choice set is the CHS user type, right? So CHS user type dot admin, employee, and tech lead. Now if we come back, user 2 and 2 submit tech lead. Now, once I have that variable, global variable, depends on the global variable, I can show and hide controls on the screen. What does that exactly means? On the same screen, at times, we wanted to show the same thing. Like example, if the logged in user is an admin, I want to show employee details as well as add employee button on the screen top right corner, right? Some of you have that functionality. If the logged in user is an admin, they should be able to see all the employee details as well as they should be able to add a new employee. When the logged in user is only an admin, if the logged in user is an employee, they should be able to see only the details of the employee as a gallery. So now let's see the same screen, employee screen. I am going to add a button, and this button is to show, this button should show only if the logged in user is an admin. If the logged in user is an employee, I do not want to show that. Okay. Now this says as add new employee. As part of the admin screen, I'm also adding another button to say show all employees. This one on select, I'm navigating the user to SCR employee screen. Remember, from the admin screen, I am taking user to show all employee. Remember, in your app, once you logged in user as an admin, we need to show the tiles stating that show all employees, show all payroll details, show all leave details, isn't it? If the logged in user is an admin, I should be able to add an employee. If the logged in user is not an admin, I should not get the option to add a new employee. Now, from here, I should be able to go on to add employee. But however, when I'm coming here, even on the tech lead from admin, I'm coming here. And also in the employee screen, I have this add new employee. When this should be visible on the visible property, I will say gvar selected. What did we create it as? What is the global variable we created as? Okay, selected designation is equal to chs dot admin. Remember, the logged in user is an admin, then only I wanted to show that. So is this an admin? Logged in user is an admin? It's false, because what is logged in user now is a tech lead, right? Now when I come back here, what is this designation is it is showing here? It is he is a tech lead. So for tech lead, we are not interested to show that button, particular button, which is add new employee. But what if the logged in user is admin? Now submit here, show all employees, add new employee. Right? Now logged in user, if the logged in user is a regular user, this is an employee, but I'm not able to see the add new resource. Are you able to follow or not? Very important. I have created a screen where it takes me to our employee detail screen, but in the employee detail screen, I'm showing and hiding the button depends on my global variable. Clear? So now that you understood this, the optimal way of implementing this code is not this. The optimal way of implementing this code is this is how it should be. Now this one selected this. Now come here. What I'm doing, I'm creating a global variable with the user type as the value. Lookup followed by dot user type. That column value I am directly assigning it to the global variable. Are you getting me? Earlier, I have defined a local variable dot user type, I'm assigning it to the global variable. Now, with the lookup, I'm getting the value followed by user type I'm taking and I'm assigning it to the global variable. This is how your code should look like. We should not create unnecessary local and global variables. Just for your ease of understand, I have created that. Ideally, you should create only the global variable as lookup followed by that column name, and that will get the value of the user type. Let's validate that. Are you guys able to follow now? Now that we know how to create a component, how to redirect the user to appropriate screen, one more functionality we all have to learn is how to show a pop-up, confirmation pop-up. Right? You want to go to the next screen or you want to perform this operation. Are you sure you want to delete this record? A confirmation pop-up, right? So the confirmation pop-up can also be created as a component, but that I will give you a video where you can follow that, but I will show you how you can create quickly. Using that video, you create it as a component, but I will show you how you can hide and show those controls. Now, in this screen, I want to show a confirmation to the user stating that do you want to redirect? Before I redirect the user, do you want to redirect? A confirmation window. So usually confirmation comes as a pop-up, right? When you are just giving a confirmation, it always comes as a pop-up. Now let me go ahead and add a button. And the background of this button is white, and I do not want any content on that button. Now I will just create another label, say confirmation, say as 15 or 21 pixel, and cancel, followed by another label. Are you sure to redirect the user? Now here I'll add two buttons. Yes or no. This one is. Now this is the confirmation I want to show to user. As and when user click on the submit button, before I redirect the user, I want to show this message to the user stating that are you sure you want to redirect the user? Okay. And this cancel should close this pop-up, and this no should not redirect the user and also should close this pop-up. Remember, this pop-up is not one control, it is group of controls, right? So always group those group of controls as one group. Now this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These 6 controls should behave at one go, right? So I said like control Z, or you can always, now I'll select all these controls, these 6 controls, and just click on the ellipsis icon and say group. Now I'm giving the name as GRP confirmation. This entire group should visible and hide at one level, right? At once. If I want to show any control, all the controls should come. Now the visibility property should be driven with a local variable as show confirmation. That visibility property, where do we set, is on submit button. As soon as user click on the submit button, say update context, show that confirmation. And this switch, I am only interested to switch when user click on button S, right? When user click on the button S, then only I want to redirect the user. If not, I'm not interested to redirect the user, right? Now on select of the button, yes, I will use that switch navigation. On no, I will just say update the local variable show confirmation to false. The same thing I need to set when user click on the cancel button. See what happens. Now we click on this. Did you notice that there is a gap when I click on submit? Okay, now when I click on 2, I got the confirmation. Now when I click on no, it did not did not redirect the user. It simply close that confirmation. But when I click on yes, it redirect the user. So this is how we will create the confirmation windows. But notice when I come onto the screen, this is coming by default. How do we address that issue? Is on visible of the screen, update the local context variable as false. So when it comes to the screen, anytime when you come back to the screen, I do not want to show that confirmation by default. I want to show that confirmation only when user click on the submit button. Say submit, it shows that. And when I click on cancel, it just disappears. So where I'm playing the group visible property. The visible property of the group is getting driven with a local variable with the value as true or false. I'm switching that value depends on the user selection. If user selects no, I am switching the value to false and I'm hiding that. Yes or no?